test. Oh,
we had a test.
it's still open, you can still take it. I emailed out let me go back to Friday here. I emailed out the code, so if you still need the code again, I can find it in your email. But Friday, I had said there was no bell ringer, you have a test and one other assignment. So you had the test here, and then once the test was finished, I wanted you to go to the World Science module, which is, you're seeing more than you would see right here, and you had to do this activity here. So that was Friday's work, and just so you understand about Fridays, your work needs to be submitted by 2:30 so that you can get counted present. A little bit of change on Fridays, so make sure that takes place. So let me close this up. So you do have stuff to do on Fridays. So just remember that. All right, so we're gonna start here with the bell ringer. This is just real simple. You're gonna click on Submit Assignment, and you're gonna tell me 3 things you already know about cells. What do you know about cells? Somebody want to shout something out?
They make up any and everything.
All right, they make up the table here, or the metal table, let me say the metal part of the table.
Everything.
Cells,
Oh, no. Wait, no, human body.
living things or things that were once living. The metal is actually made up of atoms, so it's not.
You can do the wood part of it.
Yeah, the wood, because it would be dead cells, yes, that's why I changed it to metal. Living or once living. All right, something else, as I'm looking for a better marker to write with.
Plants have cells. Well, that's
All right,
living,
that's
but
living. So that we can do plant cells, makes up all living things. You said plants have cells. Anything else about cells? Can there be things that are made up of just one cell, or there are things made up of lots of cells?
both.
Both. So you could say single cell and multi-cell. Think of anything else. Just need 3 things. Anybody remember any parts of a cell?
You need it's the inside. Like, I know it's.
Nucleus?
Yeah, nucleus.
Okay, so it's made up of smaller parts, right?
Yep.
All right, so pick your 3, put it in and submit. This is extra credit points. So if you get 3 things, 3 of the ones on here, it's 3 extra credit points. So you always want to make sure you take care of the bell ringer. They're only available the day they're assigned. This is one thing you can't make up, because it's extra credit. All right, so what we're going to start at, and I want to show you something here, another extra credit activity. They now have IXL for science, and I want everybody to try this because I want to see
Really?
if I set it up right.
You gonna do the science?
Well, notice,
I ain't even doing
it's
it.
extra.
That's the hardest thing to do.
Well, this is for extra credit. I'm having it up here because I was told I needed to have it up here, so it's up here, it's extra credit. But I wanna make sure, I wanna see how it shows up on your end. So if you could go into IXL just briefly, this link, I think, should take it to you. I just wanna see what it looks like from the student end. You can decide if you want to do it for the extra credit points or not. I just wanna see if you can see it. And if you know your login.
So if we do get on there, then it's gonna give us 8 points.
When you complete this set that I put up here on macromolecules, you'll get extra points, yes. So can you get in? I mean, do you see? I wanna know what it's, I know what it's like for math. I wanna see, have you signed in before?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So click on, and I told you to hide that. The only thing they have is like, this is why I don't want to use it, it only goes up through 8th grade. So it's gonna maybe show 8th grade, but click on it, and I want to see what it looks like. I guess you have to sign in. I just want to make sure you can get into it if you want to do it. Huh? Yes. So if you want to do it, it's there. Okay? If you don't want to do it, that's up to you. I may use, if you choose to do this, I may use these points to go toward your basics of biology test. So just know it's there. It's not necessarily required, but it's there. I just wanted to see if I signed it correctly because I'm new to all this. All right, so you can get out of that now. We're gonna start with cells. But that is there. I have it set in Canvas to be through the 5th, but I don't think there's a cutoff date in IXL. All right, so here's the notes. So if you want to do them online, you're gonna type right
We
here.
have to write our vocabulary.
Uh-huh.
We have to write our vocabulary.
Uh-uh.
You know how to do that?
I'm not dealing with vocabulary. I just didn't take it out of the sites.
You mean to tell me, out of all these notes we done did, I did all the vocabulary?
Yep, it's gonna help stick. No, I don't do this side, and this is left over. I just didn't want to modify it, so I just skipped through it. If you're doing it on paper, go ahead and click the submit button here on this assignment, so it doesn't show up missing for you if you're gonna do it on paper. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That way it doesn't show up missing on your part, and at the, when you guys go home, I'll come around with your notebooks and put your grade in it. So basically filling in the blanks as we go along is a free 100. All right, so, let me do this here. You just kind of go through the vocabulary. I didn't, all right, so cell theory, and I've got a little video, Edpuzzle video for later today that you can watch that will go along with the cell theory. Gives you a little bit of background on it. So there are 3 things, and they still call it a theory, even though it's pretty much factual. All living things are made of cells, which we already stated. Cells are the basic unit of life, and then all cells come from other cells. So I don't remember if there's a blank to fill. Oh, I see. Let me explain. Look at your notes. Number 1 is up at the top. Number 2 is right above the table, and number 3 is at the bottom of the page. This one is split up, so number 2 is here, and number 3 is there. So did you see where how it's split up? Number 1 is at the top, number 2, and then number 3. We can get out of this now, and I may call you Marcus from now on since I know your brother. You'll have to forgive me if I do that. All right, so if we go down here, so if you want to do the notes on the computer, this is the link, or you can fill them out here as we go, okay? If you're gonna fill them on here, if you'll submit when that loads, just go ahead and submit it and get it out of the way, and then I'll get your grade from this. Does that make sense? So do you need a pencil?
Yeah.
All right, so number 1 is here, number 2 is here, number 3 is here before I move off that slide. That's the only one that's kind of split up. So we're going to talk about all things being made up of cells first. Then we're going to look at cells being the basic unit of life. And then we'll look at them coming from other cells. So has everybody got 1, 2, and 3?
Mhm.
So then this is going to be a basic unit. Right there. And then all cells come from other cells, so cells and cells. All right, so if all living things are made up of cells, cells or organisms can be unicellular. Uni means one, so same thing as single cell. That means composed of one cell. That's your bacteria. That's your yeast. Or multicellular, like this dog, composed up of many different cells, like us, composed up of many different cells. And these cells and multicellular organisms will be organized into tissues, organs, and organ systems to make up the whole living organism. If I get to moving too fast, you let me know. All right, so the second part says it's the most basic unit of life is cells. So we have 2 types of cells. We have prokaryotic and eukaryotic. It's there in the chart. So you're going to fill in this chart. Nucleus, only prokaryotic doesn't, eukaryotic does. Prokaryotic, think of bacteria, no nucleus. Membrane-bound organelles, prokaryotic does not have them. Eukaryotic, yes. Division. Prokaryotic uses a method called binary fission to split. And eukaryotic goes through something called mitosis for division. The size of organisms, prokaryotic or unicellular. Eukaryotic can be both unicellular or multicellular. Cell walls, prokaryotic, yes, they do, but they're made up of, they have some different compounds in it than eukaryotic, and they've listed the compound here, peptidoglycan.
Part of isn't like being when they split up or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
when they make new cells. And then eukaryotic cell walls, only fungi and plants, and they will either be made of, I don't know if it's chitin or chitin, C-H-I-T-I-N, and then cellulose. Plants is cellulose, fungi has that other compound. And then examples of organisms. Prokaryotic, the one we're most familiar with is bacteria. And then eukaryotic, you can have any animals, plants, fungi, or protists. Protists tend to be your single-celled organism. You may see a chart like this again, so you need to be able to know, especially with the first one, nucleus, which one has a nucleus, and which one, and the second one, which one has membrane-bound organelles. So prokaryotic, your example is bacteria. Eukaryotic is animals, plants, fungi, and protists. Everybody good? All right, so we have all cells have these, whoops. All cells have these parts, regardless of being prokaryotic or eukaryotic. All cells have a cell membrane, cytoplasm, ribosomes, and genetic material, either DNA or RNA or both. We have a whole separate unit that we'll talk about, number 3, where all cells come from other cells. So now we're going to look at the individual parts. So we good? We're going to look at the individual parts that make up eukaryotic cells next. Are you good now? All right. So when you flip over, we're going to talk about organelles. Organelle means little organ. And these are like the structures that you would find inside specifically eukaryotic cells. Cells will have these 4 structures, all cells. So the first 4 that we look at, all cells have, but eukaryotic cells also have other ones as well. So these many organs, they have specific functions, and the main thing here of all cells is to make proteins. That is sort of the main function. Proteins is what, various proteins is what we need to live. And so the first 4 of these that we look at, all cells will have these structures. Or all cells have 4 of these, but then eukaryotic have a lot more, so they're not necessarily in the order of the first 4. All right, we're good? We're going to start with the cell membrane or plasma membrane. Okay. So, surrounds the outside of all cells. So notice, all cells will have this one. It has 2 layers. We call it the phospholipid bilayer. You may want to underline that or circle it. Phospholipid bilayer is important. The job of the membrane is going to control what's coming in and out of the cell. It has little proteins, sort of gate controllers that will allow some things in and keep other things out. So all 3 cell types, very important, all 3 cell types here, plant, animal, and bacteria. Good. All right, the next thing, specifically your phospholipid bilayer. We're going to get into a section of this on how cells transport materials. We'll talk a little more about this. But phospholipids are fats, so it's 2 layers here. And they have here the orange circles are called the heads, and then it's two yellow tails. And then there's proteins that are also embedded. And we call it kind of the fluid mosaic model. If you think of a mosaic in art, you have all these different colors and shapes that are making up a picture. You have all of these, and these things actually kind of float. They can move around a little bit. And we'll get into a little more detail of this once we get to cell transport. Good. All right, cytoskeleton. These are thread-like fibers made of proteins, and a lot of times we do not picture them in a cell diagram. Think of it as kind of the skeleton of the cell. It helps organelles move, it helps other materials move within the cell, and we normally do not draw these or represent them in a diagram. It helps give shape to the cell. It moves organelles around, and it gives structural support for animal cells because animal cells do not have cell walls. All right, is everybody good? All right, next is cytoplasm. This is the jelly-like substance in these cells. It's going to be, in this one, it's the pink background, the green background, kind of the blue background there. Mainly made up of water. Whoops. And it just holds everything in place. And notice it's found in all three because we have an arrow going to all three. Nucleus. This is where your genetic material is going to be located. It's going to be, a lot of times we think of it as the center of the cell, but it may not be always located dead in the center. It has its own nuclear membrane. It does have some pores, which are openings in it to allow materials to come and go from the nucleus, but it doesn't let the DNA out. The DNA stays put. Its job is to protect the DNA. And the DNA is what controls the functions of the cell. So that way the DNA has less likelihood of getting damaged because it's inside the nucleus. And it is only going to be in plant and animal cells. These are eukaryotic cells. It will not be in prokaryotic cells. Good? Almost? All right, inside the nucleus, we have something called the nucleolus. It is a small round structure, and this is where ribosomal RNA is made. So it makes a type of RNA, and this ribosomal RNA makes up proteins. So it's only going to be found in your plant animal cells since they have a nucleus. It's going to be in eukaryotic cells only. All right, next. Ribosomes. Ribosomes are actually found in all three. This is what makes proteins, or it's made up of proteins and RNA, but they are going to be in the process, or their job is to make proteins. They can be located on what we call the rough ER. ER is endoplasmic reticulum, or they can be floating in the cytoplasm, and all three cell types have these. So all cells will have ribosomes. Now, the next piece we break up into two, your endoplasmic reticulum. We have the rough ER, which is going to be closest to the nucleus usually. It's going to have little dots on it, which are ribosomes. And it is going to make proteins. As it has ribosomes, it's going to work, it's going to be a part of that making proteins. And it is only in the plant and animal cells or your eukaryotic cells. So we shorten it and say rough ER, but it's endoplasmic reticulum. And then on the outside of that, you will see what we call smooth ER, but they have no ribosomes. They are attached to the rough ER. And their job is mainly to make lipids, especially for the cell membrane. So they may have some other jobs as well, but the main one is making lipids. And it is in the plant and animal cell, because they have membrane-bound organelles that are eukaryotic. All right, next, we have what is called the Golgi apparatus. You may also have heard of it as Golgi bodies. To me, they kind of look like a stack of pancakes. Over on the side, it's a folded membrane. Basically, it gets vesicles of proteins from the ER. So it receives proteins from the ER, and these little sacs right here. It will then modify the proteins and sort them and what we call ship them and send them out in more vesicles to either be used within that cell or be sent to other cells. And again, this is only going to be in your eukaryotic cells, your plant and animal cell. Right here. All right. We did that together in class. And then it's going to be in the recording. Where it says Google Meet recording for Thursday. All right, good, Alex. Lysosomes. Lysosomes look like vesicles, but they contain enzymes, and they're going to break down anything that the cell doesn't really need. We call it dead stuff. It could be food, it could be bacteria, it could be old parts of the cell that are no longer functioning right. So it's going to look like a vesicle, but it's going to contain enzymes, and it's kind of sort of like a digestion process. It's going to digest stuff that the cell doesn't need. And when a cell is programmed to go through cell death, Apoptosis, it is involved in that. So that's basically when a cell breaks down itself. So you will see, you'll see things, it differs some. Here, they say it's only in animal cells. I've seen some literature that say you can find them in plant cells sometimes, but they're mainly in animal cells. So you may want to make sure you put a star by that, animal cells only. Vacuoles. These are small, numerous in animal cells, and in plant cells, there's one large vacuole. Its job is for storage, usually water, nutrients, waste. And again, it's going to be in your eukaryotic cells, your animal and plant cells. I'm going to send headphones if you want, would you use for that? Just a previous one for you think it has a video. So plus you use your headphones.
What part of the job is a cell to lose oxygen, like beyond,
To not use oxygen.
lose, like you know how you can
Like it can be,
make
oh, that is blood. That's just
Oh, like
specifically
blood
blood
cells.
cells. So one or two things, there could be something wrong with the hemoglobin that carries the blood cell. So if you're sickle cell anemia, if you have sickle cell anemia, or if you're a carrier of sickle cell anemia, you may, can be on the anemic side. If you don't have enough iron in your blood, iron or in your diet, hemoglobin needs the iron to carry the oxygen. That's when usually it's an iron shortage. But then there are some that do have the sickle cell anemia. Centrioles. Usually they're going to be drawn one of these two pictures here. Sometimes you'll see them in the cell, but typically you're going to see them when the cell's getting ready to divide. And that is where your spindle fibers will come from that will pull apart the chromosomes during cell division. And microtubules are this, a special type of protein. We'll start with the one that's for today, if you want on cell theory, or you can get some of the ones that you can. All right.
What are you missing? I got everything.
All of this is space.
Oh, no ring.
Bell ringer's the only thing that's locked. Everything
Uh-uh,
else should
the
be open.
videos and all of them.
They shouldn't be,
They are.
because most of them should be, unless it's the first week of school. After that, the rest should be open until the 12th.
I'm hungry.
All right, these are mainly in animal cells. All right, cilia and flagella. This is going to be probably more in your single-celled organisms. Cilia is going to be hair-like structures. Flagella is going to be longer, and you're going to have less of them than you would the cilia. Cilia moves fluid across the cell surface, where flagella is used to actually move the cell. Animal and bacteria cells, plant cells would not have these. Oops. You still needed that, right, Alex? You good?
Can I go grab my headphones out of Miss Blake?
Yes. Mitochondria. Mitochondria has two parts. It has an outer membrane And then it has this zigzag, how we tend to show it here in the middle as being sort of the inner membrane. This is where respiration occurs, cellular respiration. We have a whole unit that will deal with that. It's breaking down food to release energy. It is the powerhouse of the cell, and it is going to be in eukaryotic cells. They think that it was originally a type of bacteria that became incorporated into a eukaryotic cell with this specific function. Chloroplast. It has two parts as well. Main thing is it's got these stacks in here that we call grana, and it has a fluid called stroma, and it's where photosynthesis occurs. And again, it's going to be a part of a whole unit that we're going to do. And this is where it converts energy from the sun into sugar. And this is going to be only in plant cells. Make sure you make note of that. And two more left. Cell wall, this is going to be in all but animal cells, so plant and bacteria. Plants is made of cellulose, fungi, I think it's chitin, and bacteria, peptoglycan. And basically it's for protection and maintaining shape. Then I'm not sure why they put the central vacuoles separately. You good? But we already talked about vacuole. The plant cells only have this one large central vacuole that is the main thing for storage for water specifically, as well as some minerals and possibly waste. This has holes in it so you can keep, but if you're on this page in your in Canvas, go ahead and submit that blank document, because I'm going to get your grade from this. That way it doesn't show up as a missing assignment before I get the grade in. If we go back to modules, you have, I know you have a short video that you're going to watch to finish up for today. So, cell theory. Now, and I'm going to go and check, but if you can go back in any of these, you can work on the videos. You can keep working through lunch. If you've missed something and you want to see if I have a paper copy, I can try to get you a paper copy if you're here. Stop recording.